Remember that time when you went hunting, took a shot, but the result was disappointing? How nice was it that you could blame it on the bullet? However, technology has progressed, and today you might be hard-pressed trying to explain it again with a failure of the bullet. That is, of course, a good thing, assuming the blown hunt was indeed due to the projectile. In that case, there would be no disappointment anymore. However, if that was not the problem, you might now have nothing else to blame but yourself. The historical issue. For those who are not that much into hunting but still interested enough to watch this video, bullet failure is a topic of common interest, be it on the internet or at the campfire. The question is, and often was, does it actually happen? And if so, how often does it really happen? Hunters are obsessed with terminal performance. They often shoot more than just one rifle and use a ton of different cartridges, including different loads in each. The aim has always been to achieve more. For that, there should be more impact on game and more accuracy to hit on the first place. Some might indeed experience one bullet failure in decades of hunting. Others might experience it twice. But most will experience it never, or at least not notice it. Even those in the community who could be called gun professionals, people writing about it, testing guns, and so on, might not have experienced any bullet failure throughout their whole career. However, there are also examples of professionals who did have some of them happen. Even Ron Spalmer, who has hunted the world, has had 7, at least so we're told. Diving deeper into it and researching more, there's an interesting factor to consider, and that is time. If you take a look at the years before 1990, big game bullets were known for not being that reliable. In the 1990s, this changed. After 1995, the number of cases with bullet failure dropped dramatically. What's happened? The manufacturers of bullets have changed their way of designing and testing projectiles. Now they check for the terminal performance using a variety of mediums. This allowed to engineer modern bullets to show more effects on the target. For that, they deform widely. At the same time, they're not prone to lose a lot of weight, what makes it possible for them to penetrate deeper. Failures are often the result of 2 problems. It's either the bullet showing no deformation, which limits its effectiveness, or the fact that it sheds too much weight, leading to an unsatisfactory penetration. Bullets today. Even today, bullets can break. The big difference, however, is that they still do not fail. Taking big game, you might see such incidents when you recover the bullet from the animal. To be sure, you will not see it very often, so do not be surprised if your next check is negative. When it happens, it's usually in the form of a jacket and core separation or slippage. With non-bonded jacketed bullets, this does not happen more often. When it occurs, it's usually at or near penetration termination. That leaves little room for having an actual impact on the terminal performance. So if you take an elk with a .308 Winchester and break some ribs, you might see it on the other side of the animal under the hole, but by then it's done its work already. As a rule of thumb, the chances for it to happen are higher when you hit bones or shoot with extreme velocities. There are cases with some cartridges where the separation happens earlier, but even then the core retains enough energy to do its intended work even after losing the jacket. You just end up with more than one wound channel, one for the core and one for the jacket, which with enough penetration of one of them is not a disadvantage as it leads to more tissue damage and a higher blood loss. Other examples include a Nosler partition that managed to shed a lot of weight when the front core was eroded and a mushroom cap was left over the jacketed rear core. While that does sound like a lot of damage to the projectile with the associated shedding of weight, the bullet still has done its work and ended the animal it was shot at. Nowadays, the bullets just do their work as long as they deform adequately and penetrate deep enough. Losing the jacketed or any other form of weight on the way does not make a big difference anymore. So instead of looking at the bullet and complain about what has become of it after it hit the target, it's better to look at the animal and what has become of it after it was hit. A blown hunt and bullet failure. Before we look at other factors than write out bullet failure, let's repeat what a bullet needs to do in order to achieve a good result. It has to deform for good tissue damage, and it has to penetrate deep enough in order to reach vital organs. With that in mind, let's take a look at what might be the real cause for a blown hunt. The first thing that might come to mind is that you just missed the target. While that is an explanation, at least maybe, and at least in some cases, that's just too easy. However, let one thing be said here. Sight your rifle properly before good hunting. Good, with that out of the way, let's look at something much more probable. Let's say you took a shot over a rather long distance, hundreds and hundreds of yards. With a rather light bullet, you might be surprised to see the animal being actually hit, but then somehow struggling back up on its feet and then staggering off. This might really look like bullet failure, and if you manage to go after it and take it with the next shot, you might be able to dig out your first bullet. Examining it, you might see that it just did not perform. It might even be possible that you cannot recover it at all as it just passed clean through. So how is this possible? And how is it not a bullet failure? To deform, especially if it's a mono-metal bullet, the projectile needs to hit the animal with a minimum velocity. The longer a bullet flies, the more it slows down due to drag. The lighter the bullet, the more pronounced the drop in velocity. This means that with the range of the particular shot, the velocity of the projectile used has probably just dropped below the deformation threshold. To avoid such a result, it's important to know the threshold of the bullet in question and its loss in velocity with range. If you repeat the shot using the same kind of ammo and with the same projectile weight but at closer range, you'll probably get the right terminal performance. Not only do the manufacturers test their loads repeatedly, there are also a ton of testers on YouTube or just hobby testers at home who also check the performance. Looking at the results, most of the time, it's not almost always, bullets just behave as expected. When they don't, it's often a niche projectile with some novel specialty that is not yet developed to its full potential thanks to its short existence. If you stay with bullets at Joe average, you will be most probably fine. Given the use of standard loads, if your bullet does not perform to your expectations, chances are that it is human error. Given that humans make around 100 mistakes per year performing their duties for their job, which they are supposed to know very well, it's no surprise that one can be wrong in the judgment of distances and their influence on terminal performance. As humans do make errors and bullets normally do not fail anymore, you might just need to learn a better process for you. Before you take a shot while hunting, train on the range and sight your rifle properly. It's not just about hitting the animal, it's also about hitting it in the right spot. Learn to hit such a rather small spot and also learn what is the right spot on whatever animal you are going after. Keep the bullets within its velocity parameters. Use neither too extreme velocities nor shoot at too long ranges when the bullet is almost out of energy. Do not be too quick to blame the bullet if something went wrong, but take it as an experience from which you can draw your lessons. This way, the next shot is not a question of luck, but of your skill and preparedness.